Sakuraba Yuzhuguang's gravity field greatly relieved the pressure on Dagonghui Yanjin. And since it was not the first time that the two of them had cooperated, Dagonghui Yanjin easily adapted to this sudden double gravity. But seeing Bai Chunyu and Li Taichung struggling, he grinned and did not intend to waste this opportunity. Dagonghui Yanjin raised his dragonfly blade, and with all his might, aimed down at Li Taichung's head. As a yokozuna, his fighting style was simple and very straightforward. Brutal force. Li Taichung realized he couldn't take the attack head-on, and quickly moved to the side. Fortunately for him, it seems he adjusted to the double gravity in time, and his movements had not decreased significantly although he was wearing a heavy armor. Anyway, the moment Li Taichung evaded the earlier attack, he was immediately forced to retreat a few meters due to a follow-up heavy diagonal slash from Dagonghui Yanjin. Although Dagonghui Yanjin was conceited, he had experienced Li Taichung's power and did not dare to take it easily. Li Taichung decided to fight at a distance in order to properly adapt under the gravity field. He was once a first-class martial arts performer and a master of using meteor hammers. After obtaining superpowers, he made up for his physical defects and truly became a powerful mutant. In terms of skills and strength, he was first-class. Li Taichung met the sturdy and bear-like yokozuna in front of him without any trace of fear. He believed in himself and his team, and after a couple of exchanges with the bear-like yokozuna, he mastered the method of attacking under the double gravity and began to skillfully fight with Dagonghui Yanjin. On the other hand, it seems Bai Chunyu's offensive was the most affected among the three. The gravity field was slightly fatal to his ability, so as he tries to get back on his feet, he instructed Luo Tianxiang to assist him in killing Sakuraba Yuzhuguang first. Luo Tianxiang agreed to this request, and although it was difficult for him to fly under the double gravity field, he effortlessly kicked the ground and immediately soared into the sky. In the air, he grew a pair of huge dark wings. Luo Tianxiang was an orc-type ability user with a rare animal genetic makeup named the Snow Mountain Thunder Falcon. Luo Tianxiang quickly flew hundreds of meters high, and even at such a long distance, he could clearly see everything on the ground. This is due to his eagle eye skill, which can dynamically capture everything moving on the ground. He locked onto the position of Sakuraba Yuzhuguang, opened his mouth and spat out lightning with an enormous intensity. But at the last second, Sakuraba Yuzhuguang strangely jumped back and actually retreated dozens of meters away. His body was light and fluttering, as if it had no mass. Apparently, in addition to being able to project gravity outward, the gravity field can also be applied to his body, greatly improving his strength and speed, and making him as light as a feather also. Luo Tianxiang let out a loud cry, and countless lightnings surrounded him in the air and struck the ground one after another, aiming at the entire area where Sakuraba Yuzhuguang was. But at that very moment also, Kurosawa Akira unexpectedly raised his huge hand cannon and aimed it at Luo Tianxiang in the air. He pulled the trigger without hesitation, and a golden light shot up into the sky, turning into a huge bright beam of light. Luo Tianxiang moved to the side and dodged the attack effortlessly in the air. As the king of the sky, his speed in the air was extremely fast, so this heavy hand cannon attack couldn't hit him. When Bai Chunyu saw this, he was about to turn into snowflakes to assist, but suddenly heard a cry for help from behind. "Deputy Captain, come and help me." The battle between Dagonghui Yanjin and Li Taichung became more and more intense by every second. Dagonghui Yanjin's attack method was extremely simple and crude. He just rushed to his opponent and forced Li Taichung to compete with him in strength. The heavy and sharp dragonfly blade kept smashing down in his hand. It was obviously a sharp weapon, but he used it as a blunt weapon. And since he wasn't particularly good at using weapons, he chose the dragonfly blade only because he admired the legendary warrior Honda Tadakatsu in Japan. But when fighting, he still felt that it was more convenient to use the heavy blade as a stick. Li Taichung was also angry. He held the anchor in both hands and chose to fight against Dagonghui Yanjin head-on. But after the earlier exchange, he found something wrong. In terms of strength, he was not Dagonghui Yanjin's opponent at all. Bai Chunyu saw this and was not surprised. After all, in terms of pure strength, the other party was second to none in the entire Eclipse organization, so he didn't expect Li Taichung to beat him. The reason why Li Taichung was brought here was to be able to hold him back from the front. The 3-meter-tall Tide Tiger form after the transformation made Dagonghui Yanjin, who was a yokozuna, almost invincible in the field of strength. The dragonfly blade chopped fiercely on the anchor. After just a few dozen collisions, Li Taichung felt that his hands were almost numb, and a chill run down his spine. After countless rounds, his legs finally lost their stability, and he fell to his knees with a dull thump. However, Dagonghui Yanjin had no intention of stopping. Looking at the guy in front of him, who was wearing a heavy armor and struggling to hold on, the violent emotion within him arose to a fever pitch, He wanted to smash the coward hiding in the armor into a meat paste. Even though Li Taichung was wearing the armor tailored for him by Deng's industry, the gap in strength between the two sides was still too big. Although Li Taichung cried for help, his body moved very quickly along the ground, and the thick iron chain in his hand was thrown towards Dagonghui Yanjin's left leg, trying to restrain him. Dagonghui Yanjin lost his balance and fell to the ground the moment Li Taichung pulled the iron chain with all his might. But instead of using this opportunity to launch an attack, Li Taichung rather made a strategic retreat. Bai Chunyu quickly told Luo Tianxiang through the communication device to restrain the two guys behind, while he helps Li Taichung kill Dagonghui Yanjin first. Okay, leave them to me. Luo Tianxiang looked down at the ground from hundreds of meters high, and dozens of lightning bolts spewed out around him, shooting at Kurosawa Akira and Sakuraba Yuzugwang. The two men were forced to retreat step by step, avoiding the lightning bolt with ease. Countless ice and snowstorms covered a large area in the air the moment Bai Chunyu arrived to offer his assistance. At this time, he had transformed into millions of snowflake flying shuriken and began to cut Dagonghui Yanjin's body mercilessly. But this time, Dagonghui Yanjin neither panicked nor dodged. You still want to use the same trick against me? It's ridiculous. Dagonghui Yanjin smiled, revealing a mouthful of cold white teeth. Then, in the continuous invasion of the blizzard, he raised his 3-meter-long dragonfly blade with both hands and spun it around at an extremely fast speed. Soon, two massive whirlwinds visible to the naked eye formed with him as the center. Bai Chunyu did not expect that the bear-like Yokozuna would think of a way to deal with his ability so quickly. But at this time, if he cancels his transformation form, he would definitely be strangled by Dagonghui Yanjin directly at close range. Don't even think about trapping me this way, Bai Chunyu shouted through his gritted teeth as the snowstorm began to disperse into the distance. But the strong wind pressure formed an absolute pressure gap, and Bai Chunyu, who was trying to escape, actually lost the ability to move and was ruthlessly pulled back. Cursing, Bai Chunyu finally began to panic. Anyway, before Li Taichung could catch his breath to help him out, the surrounding snow was all condensed together by the artificially created whirlwind. Bai Chunyu turned into a large mass of solid icicles and was firmly squeezed together by the wind pressure. Dagonghui Yanjin jumped high in the air, grabbed this huge whirlwind-shaped icicle, and violently smashed it on the ground. Then into the depths of the earth, Bai Chunyu felt all the strength in his body being emptied. At this point, he had no way to escape and was barely hanging on. Seeing this, Luo Tianxiang and Li Taichung began to panic. Bai Chunyu was the main force among the three of them. Now that he was on the verge of death, the combat effectiveness of the two of them was obviously reduced significantly. Dagonghui Yanjin turned to the terrified martial arts performer with a wide smile. Next, it's your turn. But before that, countless lightning bolts suddenly fell directly from the air on him. Dagonghui Yanjin's speed was not his strongest suit, so he obviously couldn't avoid this kind of lightning attack. But as the lightning wandered on his body, it did not cause much damage. Dagonghui Yanjin smiled coldly. This level of attack can't hurt me. Luo Tianxiang's lightning was just a bioelectricity transformed by his ability, not actual lightning. Hence, it didn't have the same amount of electrical intensity like a real lightning. Dagonghui Yanjin smiled and suddenly made a strange gesture. He raised his dragonfly blade high in the air. His body bent slightly, and a golden energy radiated all over his body and his blade like he was accumulating strength. Luo Tianxiang's pupils shrank suddenly, and he had a bad premonition in his heart. He flapped his wings and wanted to fly, but it was too late. The moment the dragonfly blade directly sliced through space, the energy it released was so massive, so powerful and so fast that Luo Tianxiang couldn't dodge and was split open vertically through the middle. Li Taichung, feeling a sense of helplessness and anger, roared and picked up his huge anchor and made a mad dash forward. Bai Chunyu was suppressed with one move, and Luo Tianxiang was split in half. Now he was alone. How could he compete with the three people in front of him? Dagonghui Yanjin looked down at him from a high position, and his excited eyes were like a beast that had encountered a helpless prey. It has been too long since he had encountered this level of a strengthening mutant. In the past, the enemies were easily crushed into meatballs by him. Only Li Taichung had fought him in close combat and managed to hold out this long. Come on, kid. Let me see how long you can last. Li Taichung's forehead was covered with cold sweat as he rushed forward. He couldn't help feeling afraid but also knew he had no choice but to fight to the death at this point. He clenched his teeth and pushed a tiny button on the glove of his right hand. Immediately, a short needle appeared from the armor device on his arm and pierced his skin directly. It was Blizzard City's biotechnology drug, Compound Number 2. As explained a while back, C2 can allow him to burst out with great power in a short period of time. However, this drug is still in the experimental stage and has great side effects. The reason why it is allocated to the investigation team is to allow them to use it in desperate situations. So, even if Li Taichung survives the current crisis, he is likely to die in a short time. Unfortunately, reality didn't leave Li Taichung any time to think things over at this point, or perhaps he no longer gave a shit. The drug quickly entered his blood and flowed through his blood vessels. Suddenly, a strong burning feeling rose from Li Taichung's body. He felt like he was about to explode. This unstable, powerful force was almost burning him to death inwardly. So he urgently needed to find a place to release it. Unexpectedly, what better target can surpass his current opponent? When Dagong Yanjin saw Li Taichung's crazed expression, his smile and excitement grew more and more to the point that he explicitly warned his companions behind him. "You two shouldn't come over here. I want to fight him one-on-one." In the short distance left, Dagong Yanjin, with his dragon blade in hand, roared and met Li Taichung head-on. Then, a shocking sound of explosions and weapons colliding resounded through the sky. Such a scene was clearly observed at the combat command center. Staring at the projected screen with a gloomy expression, Zhu Zhang was literally crunching his teeth at this moment. His predicament wasn't that the Heavenly God team lost, but his issue lies with how quickly they lost and was completely crushed. That was what he was finding it difficult to accept. Obviously, they have used the best personnel allocation method. Anyway, as the scene shifts back to the battlefield, only a minute had passed and the place had quieted down tremendously, although blood and flesh were everywhere. Luo Tianxiang's head was held in the hand of Sakuraba Yuziguang. Bai Chunyu's lifeless body was buried a few meters in the ice and snow, and Li Taichung's body was scattered all over the place. A foot here, a severed arm there. The entire scene was gruesome and appalling. Using C2, he constantly broke through his limits and exploded in this high-intensity battle. So with that, the Celestial God team on the Western Front was completely defeated. Dagong Yanjin's eyes were a little disappointed. It's over so soon. What a pity. I haven't felt this happy in a long time. The heavy gunner, Kurosawa Akira, added calmly that the outcome of the battle was already determined. Miss Takeuchi's divination had never been wrong. Meanwhile, at the edge of the Northern Front, Zhu Zhang contacted Zhang Yi and gave him a status update. Deng Shintong has already sneaked into the Eclipse Moon Group's headquarters. The Western Front has been completely wiped out. But the Northern Front needs to hold on to give Deng Shintong enough time to kill the Eclipse Moon Group's leader. If Deng Shintong can succeed in beheading the Eclipse Moon Group's leader, we will be the winners of today's battle. Hearing this, Zhang Yi rushed towards the Northern Front without the aid of his double door. He needed to settle his thoughts before he arrives on the battlefield. The two colliding forces should come from Deng Shintong and the leader of the Eclipse team, right? Should I go over and provide support at that end? Forget it. If the people from the Eclipse Group headquarters are able to restrain me, it would be a waste of time. I might as well use Deng Shintong as bait to test the strength of their team leader. On the Northern Front, the situation has reversed. The second-in-command of the Eclipse Moon Group, Jinguji Saikairo, had joined the battle after the defeat of Kamaya Negemichi and Shinichiro Akutsu. He brought 5 Shikigami with him. When Liao Honglei saw Jinguji Saikairo appear on the battlefield, his face showed a proud fighting spirit. The Onmyoji of Japan? Interesting. You stole the unorthodox method from my country, and now you plan to use it against me. Do you really think you can win? Jinguji Saikairo could understand Liao Honglei's ridicule of him through the translation function both parties have on themselves at all times. Jinguji Saikairo simply smiled and replied calmly, I remember there is an old saying in your country. A disciple need not be inferior to the teacher, and the teacher need not be better than the disciple. It seems that you have all forgotten this saying. He stared at Liao Honglei and said word by word, We have found something better. Really? Then let me see it for myself. Liao Honglei suddenly rushed towards Jinguji Saikairo. His figure was as fast as lightning. On the other hand, Jinguji Saikairo simply waved his left hand, and the giant ape Kanemaru rushed towards Liao Honglei, simultaneously blocking his path towards the Onmyoji of Japan. At the same time, the three-headed demon dog Akamaru was also attacking Liao Honglei from another direction. Liao Honglei calmly observed everything around him. The three-headed dog and the giant ape seem to be melee-type Shikigami, but there are also foxes, green birds, and gray crows beside him. That gray crow has been found in everyone in Eclipse Moon, but I haven't seen it show any combat capabilities. It should be a support type. Liao Honglei basically made a judgment based on his observations so far. He reacted very quickly and punched Kanemaru in front of him. The power of the 100 Steps Divine Fist sent out shockwaves through the air, and the next moment, an invisible wave slowly appeared, directly tearing a huge hole in Kanemaru's abdomen. But immediately, a reddish light appeared inside Kanemaru's huge body, repairing the wound to his original state. Kanemaru roared and launched towards Liao Honglei with raised fists, intending to smash down on his head. Liao Honglei immediately felt like a mountain was pressing down on his head. He dodged Kanemaru's attack with his nimble movements. But the ground where he just stood broke into pieces with a loud boom. Its power was so huge that it was jaw-dropping, and it was definitely at a Delta-level enhanced mutant. Liao Honglei realized in that moment that Kanemaru was not a living being. Otherwise, within 100 steps, almost no living creature could take his punch without any injury. The only explanation could be that these creatures were something condensed by supernatural power. Liao Honglei's expression became solemn. This was the first time he was facing such an opponent. And the worst part was that he didn't know how to destroy the enemy. Anyway, Jinguji Saikairo's Shikigami did not give Liao Honglei any moment of respite. As Kanemaru and the deputy captain faced off, Akamaru spewed a massive magma beam, directly melting the entire path Liao Honglei was. Liao Honglei glanced at Jinguji Saikairo in the distance. He had a plan in mind. Since he didn't know how to quickly deal with the numerous Shikigami, wouldn't it be better to just kill the Onmyoji? But this is easier said than done. Not only was the silver six-tailed fox Jinmaru and the green-bird Amaru besieging Jinguji Saikairo, but Kanemaru and Akamaru was also watching his every move. But just when Liao Honglei was struggling, a reminder from the combat command center sounded in his ears. Liao Honglei, the Shikigami in the Inyang magic art needs to be condensed with talismans as the core. As long as you can destroy the talismans, you can kill the Shikigami. Although Liao Honglei was reminded of this, he was not particularly thrilled. The reason was that the giant beasts in front of him were so massive, and the talismans were only the size of a palm. How can he find these so-called cores and destroy them? Resigning at this point, Liao Honglei can only give it a try. He gritted his teeth, stood firmly in his horse stance, and aimed his right fist at Kanemaru's head and punched hard. The power of the 100-step divine fist directly reached its skull, and the head twisted instantly but did not explode. Kanemaru was the representative of strength among the 5 Shikigami of Jinguji Saikairo. Its strength and defense attributes were the strongest. In a short while, Kanemaru's head was restored to its original state. It howled, as if it was angry this time, and the speed of chasing Liao Honglei increased by more than a step. The talisman was not in its head. Jinguji Saikairo saw this scene and smiled contemptuously. Some people really watch too much anime and subconsciously thinks that the vital point would be in the heart or head. If they knew this, then Jinguji Saikairo certainly knew it too. So why would he place the talisman in places that are easy to guess? The 2 giant beasts, Kanemaru and Akamaru, surrounded Liao Honglei, but he dodged their joint attack with ease. Liao Honglei was not in a hurry, so he just simply evaded all their attacks with his agile body for an opening. It was clear as day that the 2 Shikigami had no way to deal with Liao Honglei. Of course, even without supernatural power, Liao Honglei was a great master of Bajikun. In addition, he was wearing a battle suit and weapons made by Deng's technology. So, if he was defeated by 2 mere Shikigami, how can he be worthy of being a deputy captain of the God Squad? Seeing that Kanemaru and Akamaru could not deal with Liao Honglei at all, Jinguji Saikairo waved his right hand, and the huge 6-tailed white fox next to him took a few steps forward. It raised its head, and its slender white neck stretched straight to the sky. Then, a ball surrounded by hazy pink light began to condense above its head, and slowly became the size of a cannonball. The next moment, the huge ball of light turned into a dazzling pink light and shot towards Liao Honglei. Its speed was so fast that it was difficult to catch with the naked eye, but Liao Honglei still managed to block the attack with his 100 steps divine fist. And the moment the 2 huge energies collided, a terrible explosion rang out seconds after. Unexpectedly, Liao Honglei used this as a smokescreen to actually close the gap between himself and Kanemaru's huge body, and fiercely hug its waist with both hands. In close combat, his 100 steps divine fist was even more powerful, which could directly penetrate all defenses and shatter any internal organs. Liao Honglei then began to exert force, aimed and twisted the middle of Kanemaru's waist, and tore it in half. The light in Kanemaru's body quickly dissipated, and a sudden miserable wail seemed to come from the depths of the earth. Then a talisman fell to the ground. Liao Honglei had not expected that Kanemaru's talisman would be hidden in such a position. However, this was also related to the success of his tactics. Liao Honglei picked up and broke Kanemaru's talisman in front of Jinguji Saikairo. The murderous intent in his eyes was released without any concealment. But Jinguji Saikairo just smiled and casually took out another talisman folded into the shape of a monkey from his pocket. Jinguji Saikairo silently chanted the spell, and then threw the talisman into the air. A faint reddish light enveloped the talisman, and then quickly generated an identical Kanemaru. This scene made Liao Honglei's pupils shrink suddenly because in this kind of attrition war, he is most likely to lose to Jinguji Saikairo. He knew that he couldn't waste time on the Shikigami, so he quickly took out a large pistol with his right hand, pointed it at Jinguji Saikairo who was hundreds of meters away, and fired an origin bullet. As a strong man from the military, he was still accurate with his right hand. If Jinguji Saikairo represents the art, then the origin bullet is just his nemesis. Jinguji Saikairo frowned, and the green bird guarding him flapped its wings fiercely, creating a sudden gust of wind which rolled up in front of him. Although the origin bullet can break the magic, such a huge gust of wind still managed to slightly deviate the trajectory of the bullet. Jinguji Saikairo's eyes revealed a bit of caution. The origin bullet of the Jiangnan region, this thing has been mentioned to him before. If he is careless about this thing, he may be killed directly regardless of his current level. Keep attacking and kill him. Jinguji Saikairo raised his right hand and began to stimulate the power of the Shikigami. The colored light around the Shikigami became more dazzling as Akamaru and Kanemaru rushed towards Liao Honglei again. In such a situation, Liao Honglei was still able to remain calm. He had performed missions on the brink of life and death countless times, so this one was no different. He quickly came up with a battle plan in his mind, put away his pistol, and in a single swift motion, waved his left hand, and more than a dozen bombs were thrown in the air, scattering all over the battlefield. Jinguji Saikairo's eyes condensed, and the green bird quickly raised a strong wind to prevent these explosives from approaching. But the bombs took effect the moment they got close. However, contrary to Jinguji Saikairo's expectations, they did not produce a series of explosions, but burst out with dazzling white light so bright that he almost cried. It was a high-intensity flash bomb. The entire battlefield was too bright that Jinguji Saikairo could not see Liao Honglei's position. On the other hand, Liao Honglei, equipped with the latest various technology produced by Deng's technology, could avoid losing vision in a strong light environment. The effect created by this high-intensity flash bomb temporarily blinded Jinguji Saikairo as he made a run for it. But the moment the flash bomb lit up, Liao Honglei moved, his legs swelled up, and his speed increased to the extreme. It only took him 3 seconds to intercept Jinguji Saikairo. The moment Liao Honglei appeared in front of him, a cruel smile tugged on his lips. "You are dead." Unexpectedly, the fear on Jinguji Saikairo's face suddenly disappeared. He looked at Liao Honglei with a weird smile that could make a person's skin crawl. The corners of his mouth grew wider and wider, like it could even stretch to the back of his ears. Liao Honglei felt a chill ran down his spine, and he immediately realized that he had fallen into a trap. But it was too late at this point. He had no time to escape, because Jinguji Saikairo had already grasped his arms tightly. His body began to crack, and in a short moment he had lost his human form. His body was full of cracks, but from the cracks came a heart-pounding white light. And as the white light around Jinguji Saikairo suddenly became blazing, a violent explosion sounded throughout the entire Jiangning Square, attracting everyone's attention.